Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Yevamot. We are up to Perik Yudalid, Mishnah Aleph. Today's Mishnayot should be Leilu Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana, Ranbayev Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelu, ben Chana bat Miriam, Menuchatam began Eden, Amen, and Avdi ben Chaim Lechaim, with the Refuah Shelem, Avdi Anisho ben Rosa, and Mariana Miriam Chaya bat Tamara betoch Shachulei Israel. The previous chapter taught in Mishnah 7 that the marriage of a deaf mute is valid only rabbinically because a deaf mute lacks the intelligence to enter into a transaction that requires intent. However, he is not considered to be completely without intelligence. It is just that his intelligence is not enough to be accepted under biblical law for things that require proper intent. But the rabbis relied on his weaker intelligence to let him marry and divorce on the rabbinical level. The Mishnah there discusses how this affects the laws of Ibum. This chapter continues to discuss the laws of such a marriage, as well as additional cases of Ibum in which a deaf mute is involved. The Mishnah begins, Cheresh shenasa pikachat, if a deaf mute man married a normal woman, upikech shenasa chereshet, or a normal man married a deaf mute woman, Im ratzah yotzi, if the husband wishes, he may divorce her, v'im ratzah yekayem, and if he wishes, he may keep her. Since their marriage is valid on the rabbinic level, he can remain married to her, but he may also choose to divorce her even though he is a deaf mute and his divorce is not valid on the biblical level. And this is because Keshem shu chones birmizah, just as he can marry by gesturing his intention, kachu motzi birmizah, so too can he divorce by gesturing his intention even though he lacks intelligence. Since he cannot speak, he expresses his intent to get married or to divorce by gesturing with his hands or his head that this ring that he gives her is for Kiddushin, or that this get he gives her is for her divorce. The same way the rabbis consider his marriage to be valid despite his lack of full intelligence, they also consider his divorce to be valid to end that marriage. The Mishnah discusses a divorce involving a deaf mute in a case where the marriage was biblically valid. In connection with this, it also discusses the law of divorce in the case of an insane husband or wife whose marriage was biblically valid. Like a deaf mute, an insane person cannot enter into transactions that require intent. If a normal man married a normal woman and afterward the wife became a deaf mute, the law is that even though their marriage was biblically valid, since the husband and wife were both normal when they got married, im ratzah yotzi, if the husband wishes, he may divorce her. Although she is now a deaf mute whose actions are normally not valid on the biblical level, she may nevertheless be divorced because a divorce does not need her intent. One does not need a woman's consent for divorce, as the Mishnah will explain. V'im ratzah yekayem, and if he wishes, he may certainly keep her as his wife. Nishtatet, but if the wife became insane after they got married, lo yotzi, he may not divorce her because the rabbis feared that this might lead to people treating her immorally since she does not have the awareness to protect herself. Though biblically, her divorce could be valid if she is aware enough to hold on to her get, just like a deaf mute's, the rabbis prohibited such a divorce. In the case of the deaf mute wife, however, the rabbis did not make this prohibition because deaf mutes generally have enough intelligence to protect themselves from immorality. Nitchareshu or nishtata, if the husband became a deaf mute or insane after they got married, eno motzi olamit, he can never divorce her because the husband must have intent in order for a divorce to take effect on the biblical level, and the intent of a deaf mute or insane person is not legally recognized on the biblical level. Although a deaf mute may divorce a wife he married under rabbinic law, like the Mishnah taught earlier, he cannot divorce a wife to whom he is married under biblical law. The next Tana challenges this ruling. Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri said, why is it that a woman who became a deaf mute can be divorced, but a man who became a deaf mute cannot give a divorce? A woman can only be divorced if she is able to understand what it means to be divorced. Therefore, if a deaf mute woman can be divorced, it must be that a deaf mute is considered to have enough intelligence for matters of divorce. So if so, a deaf mute man should also be able to divorce. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri argues that if we say, as the Tana Kama said, that a wife can be divorced even if she is now a deaf mute, the husband should also be able to divorce even if he became a deaf mute. Rabbi Yochanan himself rules that a deaf mute wife is treated the same as a deaf mute husband, and neither of them can be a party in the divorce on the biblical level, because deaf mutes do not have enough intelligence for a biblical divorce. The sages respond, the sages said to him in reply, Eno dome ha'isha migaresh li'isha mitgareshet. A man who divorces cannot be compared to a woman who is being divorced. Because a woman can be divorced with her consent or without her consent. But a man can divorce only with his consent. Therefore, a deaf mute's wife's divorce can be valid because her agreement is not needed. She just needs to understand what a divorce is, and even a deaf mute can understand this. However, a deaf mute husband cannot divorce because he must legally intend to divorce, and this a deaf mute cannot do. And that is the Rabotai of Mishnah Aleph. Now the sages in Mishnah Aleph ruled that a deaf mute woman may be divorced even if she was normal when she got married and her marriage was biblically valid. In this Mishnah, Mishnah Bet, the sages proved their opinion by quoting the testimony of the following Tana. The statement about to be quoted is from the Mishnah in Eduyot, chapter 7, Mishnah 9. Those Mishnayot are all rulings from an earlier generation of Tanaim and were cited by later generations of Tanaim as proofs. The Mishnah begins, Se'id Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgeda. Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgeda testified to an old teaching, concerning a deaf mute girl whose father married her off when she was a child. She yotza beget, that she may be divorced with the get, a document of divorce, even where the get is given to her, not to her father. Now, in a case where she has already reached adulthood and the father no longer has rights over her, that is the case that the Mishnah is referring to. So just again, Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgeda testified to an old teaching concerning a deaf mute girl whose father married her off when she was a child, that she may be divorced with the get, even where the get is given to her, not to her father. Again, in a case where she has already reached adulthood and the father no longer has rights over her, although she is married on the biblical level, because the Torah gives the father the right to marry off his underage daughter even without her consent, she may nevertheless be divorced, even though she is a deaf mute. The reason is because her consent is not needed for the divorce, and therefore she may be divorced on the biblical level, even though she is a deaf mute. This is the same reasoning that was given in the previous Mishnah for allowing the divorce of a wife who becomes a deaf mute after her marriage. Amrulo, the sages then said to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, who ruled that a deaf mute wife cannot be divorced if she was normal when she got married, Af zu kayotze ba. This one, the wife who became a deaf mute after her marriage, is also the same as the deaf mute married off by her father. Although her marriage is biblical, she may also be divorced since her consent is not required. And that is the Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.